Hello guys, this is Jan Wars. It's a new video, new Humans of Eurovision show, and a new guest. And today's guest is Carla Bugalho, who was executive producer of Eurovision 2018 for RTP Portugal, their national broadcaster, as well as she is a TV producer and content producer for television formats in her public broadcaster RTP, such as Festival da Cancao, which is the national selection for Eurovision in Portugal for more than 50 years. And they renovate the format, and right after they just did it, they won. So we're gonna talk about it, not just about 2021, not about just COVID, but about the whole thing, about the whole approach towards Eurovision, why and how they changed it, what it brought, why Elisa doesn't represent the country this year at Eurovision, and what's gonna happen with Festival da Cancao as well. About the whole nowadays history of Portugal representation at Eurovision, and much more. I think it's very interesting, so please welcome Carla Bugalho. Carla, I'm really glad you're here with me at the new year, and I need to ask you about the year before, about 2020, because it was a crazy year for all of us. And you are the TV producer of Festival da Cancao and all of the stuff about Eurovision, and it should, or it probably strike you really hard. But you're here, so how was the 2020?
Hi, Jan. Well, it was a really weird year, but we still managed to do our Festival da Cancao by 5 days or something before the lockdown. We were one of the last countries in Europe where COVID arrived, so there were really only a few COVID cases in our week of the final. And so we managed to do it, and very successfully, I must say. But then 5 or 6 days later, we had a lockdown, and we had to adapt everything that we did from then on, like other formats like Got Talent and The Voice, that had to adapt to new rehearsal schedules and methods, and no audience in some cases, and so a few weeks even without being broadcast. So it was a very strange year. And also for the summer, we had to adapt our daytime shows and do it mostly outside, so that we could avoid the transmission that was bigger in a TV studio, than in the street if the team was on the street. So that's how we adapted. And now we are in full preparations of our Festival da Cancao for 2021. Well, and I think we adapt to everything. Although it was a difficult year, we had to adapt and continuing to produce TV.
Yeah, I always say that this year, the year 2020 really was hard, but as well, personally, helped me a lot to learn lots of new things. And I saw a lot of my colleagues that they learned new things, new methods, because they needed to adapt, as you say. What was the biggest lesson you got from it?
I think that well, there was one thing that I have to say, that I managed to, as I was working from home, I managed to assist my kids in a much in a bigger way. I managed to be with them and to help them, because they were also locked down with school and everything. And when everything returned with their activities, and so for me, in that aspect, I managed to be more present as a mother. In my job, we had to adapt everything, even the meetings, what we are doing now. Of course, I wouldn't be going to Czech Republic to do this interview, but I mean, everything that we did on site On RTP, when I was working, we had to do it because I work a lot with content. We had to do it in a distance. Like we are doing this interview, we had to do everything like this with my research team for the summer shows or preparing the Festival da Cancao. We are like going 2 days a week to the office and no more than that. And still we keep our distances and we are in a very big room working. I mean, there were some positive things, like I told you, but I think it was more on a personal side. Our job was more difficult, but we adapted. I mean, but we had to do it like this because show must go on, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That's I'm always admire every producer skills who are like you able to make things happen even in this situation, as I know how hard it is without a personal contact with the people involved. You know how important it is in our job to got this chemistry personally. But maybe this changed a lot and people adapted to it and they had to adapt. And as you say, show must go on. You know, we need to find it out.
We need to find new ways, of working. And of course, it's very hard because some of our colleagues at work are not exactly colleagues, are friends, because we've worked with them for so many years now together in the same projects. And that's the hardest part, that you don't get to be with people. And even if it's a hard job, we have a lot of fun when we're together, preparing things and designing the content and imagining things. And even with Eurovision, it was so hard, but we laughed a lot. We had a lot of fun because we were together preparing something that was going to be really cool. And that's the hardest part, that you don't get to be with the people that you like to work with, and you can only see them through a screen. And I mean, that's the hardest part.
Yeah, how hard is to focus directly on those projects with the friends or colleagues you said, and how hard is to, you know, really have these feelings to really make those projects work. How this work, or what changed, you know, what new things are added to help this out?
Well, for me, because I'm more on the content side, it's much easier. If I was on the logistics side or directly producing, you know, let's say when we were doing the daytime in the summer, I managed to work with my research team and to define what we were going to talk about and which people we were going to invite. And well, we managed to do everything in Zoom meetings and by phone and by WhatsApp and everything. But my colleagues in the production area, they weren't that lucky, because they had to imagine new ways of having people, of having less people on the set. And that's the hardest part, to do the same show with less people, with less technicals, with less makeup artists, with less cameras, with less, with less everything, to minimize the amount of people that were in the same space. And for them, I think the job was much harder than for me, because I was in my home, working from home, and they were doing it in the street. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure, for sure. But you needed to adapt as well for the situation, as your content must be for sure helping them out as well.
Of course I did. But what I'm saying is that for them, it was much harder than for me, because they had to do it taking risks and every day, you know. And I was much more comfortable than them. Of course, I had to design the show and the content and to know who to invite and what were we going to talk about on that day and the next day and the next day. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I was doing the same thing for many years, so I really can imagine.
Yeah, so I think that for them it was much harder than for me, I think.
That's great to hear. Not sure if anybody just say it from this perspective. I really glad that you said it, as it's not mostly about just people who are making content, but as well for the people who are making the content alive, you know.
Yeah, making the content happen.
Yeah.
Because they were the ones that had to be in contact with the guests and receive the guests, and then set the setup in the street, and then go from one place to another, because we were doing things every day in different places, and they had to travel, and they had to move a whole team, and they had to,
Yeah.
I mean, I had to adapt, of course, but for them, I believe it was much harder.
Yeah, and even riskier.
And much tiring. Yeah.
And the thing that I think a lot of viewers in general, TV viewers, my YouTube viewers, or Eurovision viewers, doesn't really realize how many people are mostly involved in this process
in a TV show.
in a TV show, and how many people as well lost their jobs because there must be cuts as well for the safety reasons.
Especially in events, I think that we were more or less safe in television, but for people that work mostly in events and concerts and live shows and all this, and technicians and artists and dancers and actors, and I mean, for them, this must have been really a very, very hard year. And I mean, I feel lucky. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though the pandemics, even everything, I feel lucky
because you could do what you want, what you do. You just adapted, but you weren't losing a job, and you could feed your family, which is most important thing.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but that was a bit like negative theme kind of, or topic. Let's say it like this. I'm asking it everyone, because this is like spectacular, crazy thing, never happened in our lives. So probably the craziest thing, like on this scale, we experienced so far. Hopefully it's the worst one as well. But I'm really curious about the Festival da Cancao preparations in this situation, and how was it when you have to tell Elisa that it's cancelled? Because for the artist, probably this is a very hard thing to hear.
It was very hard. It was very hard for us. It was very hard to imagine that they had won Festival da Cancao and they weren't going to represent us, because there was no Eurovision for the first time in 65 years. And it was really hard, but I mean, they understood. I think they realized immediately how serious the situation was, and they accepted. I mean, they knew that there was nothing they could do, and that they knew that it was not RTP's fault or our fault. It was not us that had canceled whatever, because we made all efforts to take our Festival da Canção up to the final, and we made it. And so it was very hard, because it was sad. You know what I mean? It was sad. It was sad because they had so much. They won because of their song. You know what I mean? Because from merit. Can we say this?
Yes.
Is this yeah? So I don't know if the word is correct in English. I'm sorry. Sometimes I miss some words.
I have the same problem, so no worries.
So they won, and they could not represent us, and this is the saddest part. Even if it was a representation in a distance, you know what I mean? But it couldn't happen. It couldn't happen. Nothing could predict something like this. So, and they understood immediately. They didn't argue with us or anything. No, nothing like that. They just accepted it, because they saw the situation, the how exceptional it was. And so for us, it was very sad also, because they were really, really nice. They are really nice. They are really nice girls. They are both her, Elisa, and Marta, that wrote the song. They are really, really, really nice girls, and they deserve that. They deserve that prize to represent us. But it was not possible. Unfortunately, it was not possible.
Did you or your team or them decide that they will not take part on the 2021 edition of Festival da Cancao?
No, it's a new edition, so we invited new composers, and they didn't even speak about that, of participating again. I'm not sure if they wanted to. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm just asking because I didn't see them on the list, and I was I was curious because some countries they were choosing the people the same. Some countries which has a huge
Like
record
Iceland.
of festivals like you or Sweden or Norway or others with the habit or common having this big show as well. They sometimes invite those who won again to those shows. And some, of course, the same reason as you. That's why I'm asking.
I mean, if they had to compete again, I mean, they had won already, so I don't think it would be very fair.
Yeah, it's this is like I don't know what's in this crazy exceptional situation is actually fair. What does it really mean if there's anything like this?
We could have made the decision, or we couldn't. I mean, it's a new year, it's a new contest, so let's move forward. And I think that for them, I think it's their wish to move forward, because it was a very sad moment for everybody.
With Festival da Cancao this year, how hard for you was it to make it happen, to find new artists, new composers, new music? How hard it was, especially when there is still uncertain if everything will happen, or did you have these measures to make it happen for sure, 100%?
Yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. We are doing some live shows, like The Voice, for example, with limited audience, and we had the second peak of COVID in November, and still we managed to do the shows with safety measures, with implemented in the studios. So we thought that it was safe to do the Festival da Cancao if we do it in the same way and keeping the same rules, and even increasing the measures if necessary, if the situation goes worse. I think we learned a lot about health and safety in these past few months. So we are implementing our rules, and we are working directly with our Department of Health and Safety in all shows. It was something that was not very usual. I mean, they were there, but not in such a permanent way. And so we are adapting the way of doing the shows, and with the audience, and with the people, with the contestants and everything. And so we are trying to have extreme attention to all the details. And we thought it was possible to do Festival da Cancao in the same way. And so we started inviting the musicians. We made lists, of course. And the most interesting for us is to have diversity. And we also thought that in this crazy year where also musicians were very affected, instead of having only 16 songs, we should have 20. Let's have 4 more artists competing. And I mean, let's try to help also in this situation. It's a good way of helping too, if you increase the number of contestants. And so for the free submission, instead of 1, we have 2 this year, for the free submission of songs by the public, by the audience. And then we invited 18 musicians of all the areas that you can imagine. You have fado, you have hip hop, you have pop, you have rock, so dance music. It's going to be very diverse, and this is what we want to do with Festival da Cancao, is that it's like a mirror of what's happening in the Portuguese market in terms of music.
Yeah, it's like a mirror for the current music in different genres. Is it like this?
Yeah.
So it's a very modern kind of approach. I actually I have this kind of YouTube videos, and one of which is called 5, and I made this 5 about 5 most progressive countries at Eurovision in terms of their selection process, and that I put Portugal in as well, as I really like this kind of approach. Even sometimes I don't need to like the outcome, the winner or whatever, but I really like the way that you're focused on what's going on now in Portugal.
Yeah.
Is this something you are doing is this something for what is Festival da Cancao is known, or is it like kind of a new approach for last few years? Because I don't know this.
When we decided to stop in 2016, we had to rethink, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do the song contest? And how are we going to approach people again, to bring people again to see Festival da Canção? And then we thought we have to work with artists that represent a diversity in our market. And also we have to work with artists that don't depend on Festival da Canção to have a career. I mean, independently of coming to Festival, they have their career and they do their thing, and they don't need television to, just to promote their careers or whatever. Of course, television is really important for them, for every artist, but they don't depend on it, and so this started in 2017 when we came back in Kiev.
Yeah, and
we won. And we weren't counting on that.
But that's a good approach, I think, not to count on it.
We weren't counting that the change would pay so quickly, would pay off so quickly. So it's something that we decided to do in 2016 when we started preparing 2017. And we've been keeping that since then, this approach, with more or less artists competing, with more or less composers, it's how we want to do it, and how we see it makes sense for us. If another team comes to produce the Festival da Canção, maybe they have another approach. But for now, for this team that is together since 2016, it's what makes sense.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this approach. It's kind of similar to what we have started here in Czech Republic as well. Mm-hmm. Not with the diversity of our own market. I think it's very different markets as well, but the approach of giving the chance to new musicians, new artists doing their music, and to feel safe with television as they were. There wasn't something like this for them, if I don't count voices and everything, which is a very different concept from Festival da Cancao or our national selection in here. But how did, not like this approach, and then after you won, how this helped the prestige of your approach and gathering new artists or seeking new artists and new musicians, even all the old ones, to get them to Festival da Cancao? Do you see the improved quality of the diversity, but even the music at the festival after it?
You know that we have been competing for 53 years before we won, before Salvador. We even had a video in our Eurovision called 53 Long Years. It was all about our journey in Eurovision, without trying everything but never winning. And so I think that winning with Salvador, with this kind of song and approach, because it was part of that diversity that I was talking to you about, and winning with a song also in our own language that people didn't have to understand fully, but it touched them. So I think that this made a lot to Festival, and organizing Eurovision here also made people realize how big it was, because I think that a lot of people here in Portugal, as they were not very close to Festival da Canção, they didn't also have a notion of how big the Eurovision Song Contest is, and having it here in Portugal also helped people to realize how important this contest is to unite Europe in its diversity, and Australia, of course,
and Israel. And many other countries.
But to unite countries in their diversity. This is the true spirit of Eurovision. It was how it started 65 years ago, after the Second World War, when Europe was all torn apart, and this union through music and getting people together through music It's the true spirit of Eurovision. And I think that people also realized that when Salvador wins with such a different song, this is really, music touches people, no matter where you are from. And this for us made our Festival da Canção then even bigger, you know?
Yeah, I really like that it was unpurposely, because after this one I see some patterns some other countries would like to copy to win the Eurovision, but I in my opinion this is not the thing what really won Salvador the Eurovision and the Portugal the Eurovision, because it was just it without any kind of other things. He after this he made like few comments which probably didn't make you sleep for a while, which like music is not fireworks,
you know,
and
that,
such things. But how was it for you to absorb all of those things, because it was controversial a lot?
Yeah, it was, but I mean, he was in a stage of his life where he could say or do everything, because he didn't know what was going to happen. He didn't know even if he was going to survive. So I think that we didn't care a lot about that, because finally he came through and he admitted that Eurovision was a life changer for him. But he was in such a delicate position in his life by then that I don't think we can blame him or anything for this kind of comments. And I think I understand what he means, that music is not fireworks, music is feeling. Because sometimes, well, he won with a feeling music, you know what I mean?
No, it was 100% feeling. It was the awesomeness.
We had
no staging, like kind of no staging and whatever. It was just pure emotion.
We had singers in the green room that didn't understand the word, of other countries with us that didn't understand the word, and you were close to us. Mm-hmm. You were very close to us, and we had singers that didn't understand a single word and that cried every time Salvador was singing, because
it was just great.
There was one thing that happened that I had never seen in Eurovision before, which was
I just got goosebumps. I just remember that.
Remember, every time he entered on stage, to that small stage, the audience was quiet. And that's very rare in the Eurovision, as you know. As soon as the violin started, everybody was quiet just to listen to him. And this was very, very, very emotional. This was very emotional. So I think that's why he had that thing, because sometimes in Eurovision, you know, not maybe in the last few years, but there was a lot of years in the beginnings of the 2000, yeah, where there was a lot of firework and not that much of music.
Yeah, I think it's still we're still in this time kind of, and he's shown the way for other countries that, you know, I was living in the television, which lots of people there said that we need to have a lot of fireworks and a lot of things and everything and white dress and, you know, those kind of cliches. And I was fighting it for two reasons. First, I didn't trust this is the way, or it's the only way. And the second was that we couldn't afford such fireworks because it's very expensive to have it. So we need to find another ways to overcome this problem. And I think Salvador, not just Salvador, but Salvador with his, you know, amazing win, because it was the win by far, like the biggest win ever happened, that this is not the only way. This is the answer for those fireworks without any sense, the crappy music, I would say.
Sometimes it makes sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes it and the shows have to have also this diversity, and Eurovision lives from this. But you can also have just music, just a simple song.
And that's the living proof, which was great. And I think
it's the proof that everything fits in Eurovision.
and that's 100%.
Everything.
And maybe we like two of us will not agree on what kind of songs or whatever, which is quite good. And maybe we have different kind of approaches for it, which I think that makes it, beefy a bit. That's the spirit of it.
And then in the end, see, I was right in the end, right?
No, that's what we all want to say after all,
Yeah.
And that's good, because it's the competition, and it's about the winners and the losers as well in each year. And I think that's beautiful. That's why we call it competition and not just the gathering of people.
And you have lovely, amazing songs that never won Eurovision, but that are amazing songs. Amazing. A lot of them.
Yeah, but the thing is that that's the approach we probably both share, that we don't care that much about winning the Eurovision, as this is very abstract kind of thing. You never know, and you have to focus on your country, especially when you have this selection, and you just don't have to, or you can't even watch another selection and say like, oh, they have this, so we need to have this. Like, it doesn't really work this way. But you are winning your own market, your own country, and I think that's actually the win. And maybe after then you can win, and that's a bonus. That's what I tend to say, and what I really believe into, and I really think that's nice. But after Salvador, you were of course doing another two. You were hosting the Eurovision, and you having winning Festival da Cancao that year, Claudia Pascual, with I think that was super beautiful song, which were maybe following the similar pattern of
Salvador.
Of Salvador, not the same style or music, but
not the kind same style, but also very.
But it didn't really work out. But you didn't change a thing, which I think that was nice. But then Conan Osiris one, which was for me kind of experimental, let's say it like this. How this like what happened, or how did it happen? Or
it was a phenomenon. It was the first year where, before the song contest here in Lisbon, in Portugal, before our Festival da Cancao, we launched the songs in the lyric video format, like a month before the semifinals, and we had never done that. So we wanted to give the song some time for them to be absorbed, because before the semifinals, because as you know, when we get to the Eurovision, all songs are known. Everybody knows them by heart already. And even if you are one of the last countries selecting, like us or Sweden, only in March, they still have 2 months for people to listen to them and to get to know them. Yeah. And so we thought that we should do something like that to give the songs a time before they were judged, or by the audience. And it was the first time that we did it, and immediately after we put the lyric videos out, his lyric video went exploded, because people really thought, okay, this is different, but it's really good. It's really good. Some people didn't quite understood what the song was saying, but the song was very emotional. Although it was called Cell Phones, it was about a guy that wanted to call heaven to speak with the loving ones that he had lost. And as he couldn't, he was breaking the phone, because if the phone wasn't good for that, it wasn't good for anything, because he missed these people, So, and I think that people that got the message really became very supportive of him. And it was a phenomenon that kept on growing and growing as we went to the final. And as soon as he stepped on the stage of the final, you could hear the crowd cheering. And so his victory was also a symbol for different kinds of songs that can win the Eurovision. I'm sorry, the Festival da Cancao. Festival da Cancao. And his looks and everything made, like the perfect storm, as I I call it. People really, they could either love it or hate it, and they loved it. You know what I mean? That was
Yeah, I
the
do,
reaction.
because I was probably on the second part of the barrier, because for me it was kind of unpleasant to watch, maybe because I didn't get the message from it.
Yeah.
And that maybe was a polarizing song in this kind of a way, just to be honest with you. As for me, it was like super like untouchable kind of. I didn't like maybe I didn't just understand it, or that's the way. But I was probably on the, if I just can choose two sides of the barrier, I was probably on the second one. And maybe that what you say, it makes completely sense. But how hard was it for you that after the first year after Salvador, when you were about to go through semis again, was hard to accept the fact that you didn't go through? How hard it was for you?
So, as you know, Claudia was directly in the final because we were hosting the contest, and I didn't have much to do with that Festival da Cancao because I was producing Eurovision. With Conan, I produced it directly, the Festival da Cancao, and it was sad for us that he didn't go through to the final, because I think he really deserved it. He worked really, really hard, as most artists work in Eurovision. But I don't think the message, as it didn't hit you, I think that for a lot of people, they also didn't understand the message of the song and what he was talking about and what it meant. And so for us, it was very disappointing, because we thought it was such a different performance and such different artists that he deserved to be in the final, at least to be in the final. And it was disappointing on that aspect, you know. I mean, we weren't mad or anything. We were just sad that he couldn't experience being in the final. But we were very proud of his performance, and we were very proud of everything he did in Israel. But it's a lot of pressure also for the artists, as you know, to being on that stage. But it was just sad, you know. We weren't mad or anything, or disappointed, or saying that we are going to change everything in the format. Nothing like that. It's just sad that he didn't get to experience being in the final.
Yeah, I think you should not change the format anyway, because that can really happen, that it just one success 1 year, because that can happen, especially in a country like Portugal, which is not that huge, you know. And you shown something to the world which was completely new, and probably he as well found new fans, which I think it's always worth it. It's always worth it, and maybe nowadays we even more understand how important it is when such a thing like COVID strike us, and we can't do like anything, and especially artists can't do anything really with the funds. And that takes me to the funds on the stage, because you know those measures are that we need to find a ways how to do shows without them, or with very minimum of them. And I just finding as well with the football, but as well with the art, that without funds, it's not it. There's some electricity is missing. How hard for you, especially in country like Portugal, where everybody is more passionate than in Central Europe about everything, and it's more emotional, or visibly emotional, let's say it like this. How hard it is to make show for the artists as well to deliver what they want to deliver with their songs.
It's hard, and we've been through that with some shows with no audience at all. But then we managed to adapt the studios and to have a few people assisting, because it's always better to have some audience than to have none, even if you can have a full house. So we adapted the seats and the distances, and where people were sitting, and everybody wearing a mask and everything, because it's what you were saying. Fans are so important for an artist, and to motivate him to perform even better, because they are there to see him perform. And it's like you give, and you give from one side, and you receive energy also from people, right? So we are going to make a big effort to have audience, of course, here in Festival da Cancao. But if for any kind of health reasons it's not possible, then It's not possible, and it will be just like a show in a studio with without any audience. But we know that shows are much better with it. So
Yeah,
but
it's
if for
now
some
that
kind of reasons it's not possible, then we cannot
yeah,
go
and it's
against that.
because you were producing your Eurovision 2018 in Portugal. You were the executive producer of it, and you probably just feel the shoes of Sieste Becker and the team in the Netherlands.
Yeah, I can't imagine. It's already so hard. It's already so hard to produce a normal Eurovision. Normal. It's never a normal Eurovision, right? But it's already so hard to produce an Eurovision. I cannot even imagine what they felt when they had to cancel one and when they're producing one without being very certain of if there is going to be audience, few audience, full audience, and to plan all this health and safety details around everything that you do. It's not only, as you know, Eurovision as also an event side, with the opening ceremony and with the Eurovillage, not Eurovillage, because Jan Herman will kill me if I say Eurovision, our marketing guy, our commercial guy. It's Eurovision Village. So so you have a lot of things going on around Eurovision. It's not only a TV show, and that's the complex part of it. So having to think not only on all the details to make a proper Eurovision, but also on all the details to have it and make it safe in a time like this. I mean, I am really, with them on this because it's so hard. It's so hard to do it normally. Imagine with this.
Yeah, and especially this is such a huge project. I've read one of your interviews, and you said it will not be the exact thing you said, but you said that the Christer Björkman is the one who really helped you how to feel the Eurovision, like the producing on the bigger scale, kind of, how essential is this influential person, because like a lot of fans are just blaming him for whatever, but they doesn't really understand the producing side of things, how this legendary person nowadays helped you with this hard task of producing Eurovision in Portugal.
He was Christer was chosen as the contest producer, so he was working, as you know, with all the delegations directly, designing all the song performances. But he was also working with me, him and Marvin, our artistic director and choreographer. They were also working with me on show details, on presentations and staging of other parts of the show. And he was very important because he is very important because he knows Eurovision in a way that most people don't. Some changes on the format of Eurovision were suggested by him, the voting announcements and all this kind of stuff, and the big openings also. In Sweden, if you remember 2016, I mean, the fashion show.
Oh yeah, that was great.
I mean, so he's really, really creative, and he also understands how to work with delegations because he has been also on both sides. He has been delegation, he has been contest producer, and I have a much bigger knowledge now on Eurovision that because I was on both sides too, So I know how it works, and that's why I was telling you that the Dutch team must be suffering a lot more than what we suffered here in Lisbon because they have a huge problem to deal with that we didn't. So, but Christer was very, very important also here for some details on the show, not only for the contest, but he knows it. He knows his job like no one. So
how his influence on you at Eurovision influenced you for Festival da Cancao for other years? Did it help it? Because he's as well the executive producer of Melody Festival, which is probably the biggest show in Europe regarding Eurovision.
It helped us sometimes planning the shows better. You know, the balance between songs and the songs presentation and this kind of things, and discussing with the songs instead of imposing things to the songs, discussing with them, with the authors and the composers and the singers, their presentation on stage, and a bigger interaction with the teams of behind each song. You know, I think that's the most important thing that we learned with Christer, to bring them into the contest and not to think that they were just going to perform a song on the stage, but to be part of that performance and to work it out with our team.
What this knowledge you have already, how and few years of proven implementing it will help the 2021 Festival da Cancao.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. We are working in a very curious way with the composers because in a distance, of course. And mainly we work with them either by phone or by mail these days. But they are they didn't just write a song and then deliver the song. You know, they are part of it. They are part of Festival. They are part of their performance. They are part of the show. So it influenced a lot, I think, on our way of working and producing it.
So what we can expect from 2021 edition of the festival?
Well, it will be a very diverse one. We have a lot of musical genres and styles, and a lot of different singers too, performers. Some of the composers we will know in a few days, in January during these months. But some of them invited other people to sing, and it will be very curious to see how they are going to present their songs on stage. Very emotional too in some cases.
Yeah, because I don't know the Portuguese market at all, actually, to be honest. Are you able to attract the stars kind of Portuguese pop market, or are you searching for like new ones, or how
we do
does
both. We do both. We always have mainstream artists. We have more unknown artists. We have how do you call it, consagrado, like big names that are not very young already. You know, that were very strong
like
in
seniors.
Yeah.
Senior singers or senior stars.
Yeah, so we have everything. And this will make Festival, as I was telling you, I know I'm always talking about diversity, but it's the main thing of it. The main thing of it, showing the diversity of the market and the artists and everything.
Was this because this probably wasn't the past of the festival that you said that you weren't able to attract such artists or such diversity, and now you can. Is it year after year better, or you still have to make a lot of approach to make it happen?
No, I think that year after year people realized, and especially as we were talking a few minutes ago about Salvador's victory and how we managed to organize Eurovision in Lisbon. And so this also made people realize that this is a serious thing. It's not just a small contest or whatever. It's like a serious thing that gives opportunities to people, if you're not really known or if you're starting a career or something, to like be known by a lot of people. And so I think that year after year the trust in the format increases, and we managed to have some mainstream artists too.
And how is it with the television RTP support for this format? Is I know that in a lot of countries, including Czech Republic, it's kind of hard for public broadcaster to do such a thing, or that kind of balance it between what's the public service and what's the commercial one. How does it work at your TV?
Oh no, it works really well. It's one of the oldest formats in RTP. We started in 1964. So it's one of the oldest formats. It's a big brand, Festival da Cancao. It's a huge name in our television, and so it's a format that it coincides normally with RTP's anniversary, the final. Our anniversary, it's on March 7, and so the final is always around. It's on that weekend around March 7. It will be on March 6 this year. So after midnight, we can celebrate. And so it's a very meaningful format for RTP, and even for the press here in Portugal, the press of that covers media and entertainment. It generates a lot of curiosity and
how much pressure it generates on artists, on you each year. Probably this grown up as well.
Yeah, it has grown up. It has grown up since Salvador, since the year of Salvador, not since Salvador, since the year of Salvador when we came back. It keeps on growing and growing, and media have a lot of curiosity, and they pressure a lot, and they're always looking for things to talk about, and it makes the market also move, it's a big format here for us.
Let me ask you one last question, or just give you a space for one last thing, and that's if you just can have one wish for 2021, what would it be?
Can we say that COVID is gone? No, of course not, right?
That would be great.
That would be great, but to be able to continue to do television in a safe way, and that people that are related to this industry, not only television, but especially people that are related to events and shows and everything, that can have their work backs, their works back. Artists and dancers and technicians and makeup artists and hairdressers and wardrobe and everything, that people can come back to their job and to do what they know best, and that everybody manages to do it. That's my biggest wish, independently of Festival da Cancao or Eurovision Song Contest. It's that people can do their job again. That's my biggest wish.
That's the most beautiful ending of my program in here. Probably I heard, and I'm signing your wish as well, because that's really what actually matters. And I really wish that all the professionals who left the industry for the reason of feeding their families will come back and will go back and add their professionalism to our projects.
And be able to do their job as they did it so nicely and in such a professional way. So I think that would be good for everyone.
That will be good for everyone. I really wish that your wish will happen. And I really thank you for sharing your time with me, because it was a great time, and I hope to see you soon in person.
Jan, well, let's meet at least in May.
I'll try.
Let's try.
Let's try. Carla, Thank you very much.
You're welcome.